disclosable pecuniary interests. Okay, thank you, members. Item 3 is the minutes of the last meeting. The head of pay, I keep saying head of pay service, the chief officer would like to make a statement on that. Mary?
Yes, so last meeting we talked about a proposal to create some new jobs in the HR team, which led to quite a discussion about our approach to regrading and restructuring. And I was asked to bring another paper back today. So I've spent some time with the team, but also with the chairman and with the deputy chair, talking about some of the issues that were raised here. And I have concluded that they need some more thought, and we need to look at our regrading policy, particularly when we are combining some regrading with some new posts, but possibly more broadly as well. So what I've committed to is to come back to the next meeting with a piece of policy work to propose some changes to the way we currently do things. I think one of the things that's become clear is that our policy is nowhere near clear enough on some of the issues that you raised at the last meeting. So, so with the agreement of the chairman and the deputy chair, that's what I'm now going to do. I will also, at the same time, return to the issue of the HR posts at that later meeting. But we'll put those on hold in the meantime.
Does any member have, without refighting the battle that was held at the last meeting, does any member want to comment on what we've just said? Okay. Thank you for that. We'll move on. Item 4 is the summary list of actions. Can we note the completed and outstanding actions from the previous meeting? Item 5, conversion of fixed-term contracts. Again, Mary, would you like to introduce the paper?
Yes, I'll introduce this briefly. So, as I think I flagged to you a while ago, when I first came in, on the face of it, we do appear to have quite a large number of fixed-term posts in our establishment, which we estimate to be just short of 20%. And I'm clear in the paper, I think fixed-term posts have an important role in any sort of workforce planning, including here. But what I have committed to do is to look at those we have and just check that we are using fixed-term roles appropriately. So this paper is one of 2 that I plan to bring to you. So this sets out broadly why I'm planning to do the review and also the sort of the approach I'm planning to take to it. With your endorsement of that, we're then going to do the detailed work and to come back again, not to the March meeting, but hopefully to the following meeting in April, to talk about those posts that we believe should actually be permanent posts rather than fixed term. If there are any such posts, I think there will be. The question of how many there are is something that we will now need to work through. And of course, the big question, of course, is whether or not they are currently budgeted for as permanent posts. And, you know, as the chairman's already asked me a couple of times about this, is this likely to have immediate budget implications? And I stand by my original answer, which I think is no. If there are budget implications, those will need to be dealt with in the future.
Okay. The other question is around staff side consultation, so the professional representatives of the unions I'm talking about. You've noted in the paper that you would need to formally consult Unison. Will we get sight of Unison's response or the sort of general thrust of their response? Because obviously at the moment you're saying we want to do this review. As part of the review, we'll need to consult, so I don't expect you to have consulted yet.
No.
When you bring the next paper, will you have carried out that consultation by then?
We will have, yes, we will have had to have done, because we will be proposing some changes.
Okay, so
yes, the answer is yeah. I mean, they are supportive of the review.
Yes, because I think I can't speak for members yet, they can speak for themselves in a moment. I mean, generally speaking, I think the review is fine. But clearly the devil is in the detail, and that's where their response will be interesting. And of course I think members might have their own views as well at that time. Does any member have any questions they want to ask or anything they want to say? Assembly Member Hall.
I've only just sort of come into this meeting as a replacement. It could be that there are quite a few fixed term posts, because clearly if there's a change in political makeup, then the thrust may be towards a different direction, etc. And it's therefore sensible, as opposed to in a proper business where you've got ongoing direction. So can we look, when you're looking at that, can you bear that in mind? It could be that, I mean, there's been an incredible increase in staffing in City Hall, unbelievably a large increase in staffing. And it could be that if somebody else was to come in and be in charge, that they would look to reduce that. And therefore, if a review is done with very little time between the next elections, it could be that it's better not implemented till after May of 2020.
Yes. So I see exactly what you're saying, and I do absolutely start from the point that in an organisation like this there will be a significant number of fixed-term roles. A number of them are linked explicitly to programmes that have a stop and a start, a start and a stop. Some of them funded by us, and in fact some of them attracting external funding, which comes to an end. So that is absolutely the starting point for this review. So this is absolutely not a review that says we shouldn't have any fixed-term posts. That's absolutely not the starting point. The starting point is it does appear that there are a number of members of staff who have been on fixed-term contracts for a significantly long time. That suggests that it just asks the question as to whether or not if we've got people in fixed-term posts because the post is legitimately has a start and an end, then fixed term they will stay. If, however, we've got people in posts that are being sort of serially reconfirmed in fixed term posts, we want to look at those. Are these fixed term posts or not, or are they permanent roles? But I think you raise a legitimate question, and I think that comes back to the detail of which posts we may or may not be coming back to recommend move to permanent posts.
Okay. I've seen Assembly Members Duval and Copley in that one.
And equally, and I think it was a valid question asked by Assembly Member Hall, but equally valid, my starting point is not everybody employed under the Boris Johnson administration is a rank Tory and ought to be got out, because that's what it implies. So the issue that I want to raise is when you talk about a long time could be a year, a long time could be, are substantially, in terms of the dipping that's taken place so far, to check, are a number of these from the previous administration that we've just carried on doing fixed term contracts because we just haven't got round to dealing with them? What are we talking about here? I mean, when you say a long time, I just want to pin you down what you mean by a long time around that.
So I don't know the answer to that question about how many go back to the previous administration. Yeah. I mean, I can find out.
Don't say that out of that.
But
I want to understand about whether this organisation has been lazy in some ways by just doing fixed term contracts, not because programmes are coming to an end, because they brought somebody in and then just haven't made them permanent.
So I think there is some of that in this picture.
Assembly Member Hall wants to come in. I think she wants to clarify her position.
Yes, thank you. I would like to clarify the position. The point I was making had absolutely nothing to do with the politics of any members of staff. I want to make that absolutely clear, because that is not what I was saying at all. It could be that one of the groups, whichever group, ends up with far less money because they've got less people, less assembly members, and therefore they haven't got the money to pay those staff, and that's why some staff in instances would have to go. It could be that somebody would come in and all they ever want to do is sort out, I don't know, river crossings, and therefore they might stop other projects. Therefore, there's a need for that. It's absolutely not about the politics of members of staff.
Okay. With that clarification, Assemblyman Copley.
Thank you. Yes, no, I just want to say I'm supportive of the review. I think it's important for us as a good employer, because being on a fixed term contract rather than a permanent contract, not just your ability to get, even a mortgage, can affect your ability to, move into a private rented flat without having to get a guarantor. So, I think as a good employer, I would support that, whilst accepting that, of course, there will be people employed on programmes quite rightly on a fixed term basis, because that programme may come to an end.
Assemblyman Cooper.
Well, I look at paragraph 3.4, where I think it actually answers the point that Assemblymember Hall was raising about whether or not they have an important place in a workforce strategy in any organisation, regardless of things like a change of political control. And that seems to be saying the GLA is no exception to that. But then I look at paragraph 3.5 and I do see estimated about 19% of established posts. And that, I would say, is a pretty high number, only exceeded by the problems that a lot of local authorities are currently having with finding anyone who would like to go and work doing in their care services departments, where vacancies are running across London anywhere between 30 and 50%. So they've got staff on fixed term, temporary agency, all sorts of dreadful things going on, which is why a lot of them have got problems. So we don't want to go to those extremes, and I hope, wish all those local authorities luck with doing some good permanent recruitment. But I do think we still need to retain that flexibility for a variety of reasons, including the one that Assemblymember Hall alluded to. But I think reviewing to see if we've, just built up that number to 19%, I think is a good idea. And I would welcome that review taking place within those parameters of retaining that flexibility. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Assemblyman Cooper. Members, I think that's a fair comment and a neat summary of the position. We are recommended to note the report. Do you agree to do so?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 6 is the changes to the GLA establishment for London Estates Delivery Unit. Sue, you're introducing this.
Thank you. So this proposal is for further housing and land growth associated with the development of the London Estates Delivery Unit. The report sets out the requirement for an additional 5 posts and the conversion of 2 temporary posts to permanent to strengthen the capacity of the delivery unit. The requirement was previously referenced in the Housing and Land Staffing Growth paper that was presented to this committee in January this year. Devolution work associated with London Estate transformation is progressing well. I took up post at the beginning of July last year and have focused on building a stronger team, forming a leadership team with representatives from key partner organisations, including GLA colleagues, strengthening governance arrangements around the work that we are undertaking, supporting our sustainability and transformation partnerships to develop sub-regional estate strategies, all of which have been banded by the Department of Health and Social Care as strong or good, which gives us a great foundation to build upon. Establishing key working relationships across partner organisations, preparing a draft of the very first London Health and Care Estate Strategy and a 10-year investment pipeline to sit alongside that, and also placing the London Estates Board in the best possible position to progress through the devolution phases and to hopefully shadow decision making in April of this year. The co-location and the hosting of the LEDU by the GLA has enabled us to proactively explore opportunities for joint working, both between health and GLA and local government, and also in some cases has given us the opportunity to release surplus NHS land for housing, at the same time releasing important capital for reinvestment in the NHS estate. Key examples of this are the GLA's acquisition of land at the St Anne's Hospital site in Haringey, and also more recently the Memorandum of Understanding that the GLA has entered into with Whittington Health. And these demonstrate 2 different approaches: one, using the Mayor's Land Fund to enable development, by bringing capital into the system, and one providing expertise and knowledge of the GLA Housing and Land team to help the NHS to shape the future development of the Whittington Hospital site. The 5 new posts proposed within the paper will enable us to realise more of these opportunities. The STP estates plans identify the potential release of land to deliver potentially 12,500 new homes. But we need to explore that opportunity further, really understand the full potential that's available to us, and also we need to develop across London a phased and prioritised pipeline for realising the release of surplus NHS land. Most of the release of the land is dependent on investment. That's another key area that we're very much focusing on. There is a finite amount of central capital funding available to us, so a key priority is to explore alternative funding and delivery options. And one area that the NHS is very interested to understand more about is the London Development Panel and the opportunity to access funding, but also to access expertise from developers. The total cost for the London Estates Delivery Unit is estimated at £800,000 for financial year 1920. It's proposed that 50% of this cost is funded from the GLA Housing and Land budget, and more specifically from the Land Fund, which includes an allowance of 2%, which is 9.72 million of revenue support. The GLA has agreed with wider London devolution partners a funding settlement of £400,000 per annum for the next 3 years as match funding.
Any member? We are requested to note the report and the subsequent discussion. There hasn't been a discussion, but are we content to note the report? Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Item 7 is the State of London debate. I'm going to take the report as read, but if any member has a question, they're welcome to ask it. Okay, do we agree to note the proposals?
Noted.
Item 8 is the appointment to the Chief Officer Performance Review Panel. Again, I'm going to take the paper as read. Any comments from any members? Do we agree to note that and agree to appoint Caroline Pidgeon to the Chief Officer Performance Review Panel? Agreed. Item 9 is the work programme. Can I ask members to note the report?
Noted.
And can committee also note the Mayor's Inequalities Report is expected to come to the committee in May? Thank you, members. Item 10 then is the date of the next meeting, which will be the 19th of March 2019 at 10 o'clock in here. There is no any other urgent business, so the meeting is closed. Back to the good old days of 20 minutes.
I don't know.
I had a million questions.